You can say hello in the chat, and you can just let us know where you're calling in from. That's always nice. And we've been getting a heat wave here in New York, and I think, probably the Northeast, but wherever you are, it's kind of nice to know that the exterior weather may be different in all the different places that we're in. And that may be true of our interior weather too. So just noticing that we're all coming from different places, different spaces today. And really lovely to just land here. I see Cincinnati, Ohio, and Columbus, Ohio, Philadelphia, Westchester, Winchester, Massachusetts, Boulder, Colorado, Norwalk, Connecticut, Southbury, Gloucester, Mass. Oh, sick baby. No, we don't love the sick baby. But we love the baby. So so good to see you. San Francisco, Delaware. Aloha from Honolulu. Welcome. Good. Nice, bright and early for you. Way to start the day. But a warm welcome to all. Seattle, I see. Wilmington, Delaware. Wonderful. So we are definitely calling in from all over, and the opportunity will be to just land with a few more tiny practices. Sometimes even just recognizing the land that we're on and the way that we're connected to place can be a really helpful way to just ground and land in any part of our day. And then also taking a breath and noticing that the breath is something that's always here for us. We can access the breath at any time, whether we're dealing with a sick family member, or we're dealing with, a coworker, or we're dealing with whatever it is that may be going on, the opportunity to just come back to the breath, to return to ourselves, to be reminded that this part of ourselves is always here for us. It's always here as a landing place. So just taking a breath and noticing where we are, noticing if it's possible, even just for a moment, to kind of slow down the mind and just begin to notice as thoughts come up, notice as the next thing arises. Just practice noticing, maybe releasing, but the very least, just noticing what's here. And if the mind starts to wander with a sound or a thought, just gently bringing the mind back to the breath. And just remembering that no matter what might be going on through the day, we often think, I don't have time to come back to the breath. I don't have time to do that. And that's often the moment that we need it the most. It's often the moment that we need it the most. And just returning to the screen and each other, and maybe just recognizing what brought us here today, maybe particularly to connect with Meghan, particularly to look for support around redefining success, which is such a relevant topic for so many reasons. But just noticing what brought you here to this connect moment today. And if you'd like to share a word or a phrase in the chat, now's a good time to just share with us a little snippet of what brought you here today, and I'll introduce our guest today, and who I deeply love and feel so connected to, even though it's been a number of years since we got to see each other and hug in person. But I feel very connected and inspired by you, Meghan. So grateful to have Meghan French Dunbar here. She is a relentlessly curious business anthropologist on a mission to improve business for everyone. She's an author and has a new book coming out. She is, and I'll tell you the book title. Um, she has a book coming out called This Isn't Working: How Working Women Can Overcome Stress, Guilt, and Overload to Find True Success, which comes out literally next week. So that's very exciting. And Meghan also, she co-founded the first nationally distributed print magazine in the US focusing on impact-driven business in Conscious Company magazine, where she interviewed more than 1,000 business leaders worldwide. And I got to meet Meghan at a World Changing Women conference, where she was hosting us all and really just did such an outstanding job and really inspired me in her own journey around hosting women in business at this large stage and also her own family journey. So I'm very grateful to you, Meghan, for your inspiration and reminding me the different ways that I can redefine success in my own life. So I'm so glad that you're here and sharing this topic, and just happy to see you also. So over to you, Meghan.
Oh, ditto to all of that. Can everyone hear me well? Julia, I saw a little cameo from you. Hi, Julia Frost with your adorable baby. Good to see you again with the little one. Oh, that breath was so needed for me, Antoinette. As you mentioned, this book is coming out next week, and there are so many expectations, and there's anxiety, and there's stories that I have in my head about how it's supposed to go, and nothing's going the way that I think it's going to go. And I'm finding myself in this just kind of frantic state of like, must do more. And the breath was just this like beautiful returning of centering in this community. And this is why I wrote the book, was to talk to people about new ideas and see how it lands and see what comes up for people and connect with people, hopefully around new ideas and new information. So, Antoinette, thank you. Thank you. Antoinette is in the book because she is such an extraordinary leader, as is Eileen. They have both been a huge part of my journey, and I'll talk a little bit about that when I talk about my story in a bit. But today, as mentioned, we're going to talk about success. And just show of hands, or maybe show of chat hand, how many of you feel like you could clearly articulate what your definition of success is for your life and career? Got a few folks. We've got a couple chat hand raisers. Leslie, I see you. So I ask this because this was a question that I was grappling with in 2020 for a number of reasons. And what I came to was the fact that success, the way we think about success, defines most aspects of our life, right? It determines what type of work we do and what we spend the majority of our invaluable resource of our time on, what we compromise, what we sacrifice, where we live, what type of partnership we have. It impacts our mental and physical health. The way we think about success frames most of the decisions we make in our adult life and many of the ideas we have as young children as well, right? And if you're anything like me, I don't know if this was anyone else's experience, but I was handed I would say, societally agreed upon success, often that is very prevalent in Western culture that revolved around achievement. Is there anyone else that feels like, yeah, like achievement, awards, winning, being the best, proving myself? Does that feel like I see some head nods? I mean, mine was like, I still remember being 8 years old and being at field day and being the uber competitive girl who might as well have been going to battle, trying to win every single blue ribbon I possibly could. And I kept all my blue ribbons and my trophies all over my room and I displayed them for everyone. And like my 8-year-old brain was essentially looking at all of them as markers of validation that I was worthy, that I was on the right track towards success. And that turned into best grades and trying to be top of my class and captaining the soccer team and the basketball team and trying to get into the best schools. And then your adult iteration of this turns into something that looks like getting into your career, climbing as high as you possibly can on the ladder so you make the most money, have the most influence, biggest title, all at which point maybe you retire and then you'll be happy because you've been, quote, successful. This was a script that parents, peers, media, I would say, it was pretty ingrained in me growing up. And I nailed this script, y'all. I like all the way, as Antoinette mentioned, I co-founded a magazine. I did that when I was 30 years old. We crowdfunded the start of Conscious Company magazine. We got into every Whole Foods in the world with our first issue. It became this gigantic media company with events and podcasts and all the things. I sold it in 2017 after doing the entrepreneur's journey of getting investment rounds and fundraising and the whole thing. I was doing keynote speaking, traveling the world. And my ego, I was literally standing on stages getting standing ovations from human beings, like just preening up there like a proud peacock. And then behind the scenes, I was miserable. Chronic stress, depression. 2017, I had my first panic attack. Every single ounce of my life force was going in to my career and being successful and being an achiever, right? If I'm going to take something on, I'm going to do it to the best of my abilities, sacrificing my mental health, my physical health. I wasn't working out. I wasn't seeing my partner. I never saw friends or family, working nights and weekends, just giving every single thing I had to this endeavor and to my idea of success. I'm curious as I tell this story, does anyone see maybe someone you know or see some of yourself in any of this? Some head nods. If you want to throw in the chat, yes, no, maybe. This is, for me at least, the peers that I was surrounded by. This was very much the narrative that we all had. I had a lot of female founder friends, a lot of CEOs, a lot of, big executives that were coming to my events, and behind the scenes, many of us were contending with crippling levels of stress and depression. Some were manifesting for folks as undiagnosable physical illnesses, some rampant mental health issues. People were having to quit their organizations, their roles. And I was noticing this pattern of you work and work and work and work and work, and then you break down. And there's almost always this inevitable breakdown point at which point something changes. And I'm seeing these answers in the chat. Yes, with far less reward. Yes, 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 didn't achieve what I thought those success markers were. That's hard. Yeah. So this kind of perpetual, endless cycle of achievement. This is, for me, I burned myself out so hard that I had my son in June of 2019. I took 3 months maternity leave, which was like a revelation that I actually took 12 weeks off as CEO of my own company. I had a parent company at the time. They weren't thrilled, but I was like, I'm going to take at least 3 months off. I came back and like right back on the road, conferences, doing the whole thing, freezing my breast milk in hotel freezers, carrying it through TSA and having them open the bags. And like, I just was, sleepless nights, but that I was like trying to breastfeed and work with my computer in the middle of the night and got to the end of 2019 and just was like, I have nothing left to give. My tank is completely empty. I am joyless. I can barely get out of bed. I can't do this anymore. And so I was like, I'm going to get through our 2020 World Changing Women Summit. And I resigned the next day, which was February 1st of 2020. And then my last day was March 13th. And on March 17th, we were in global lockdown and I had a 9-month-old son. So full-time CEO to full-time mom, total whiplash moment and such a profound gift for me because for a year as COVID was going on, I couldn't achieve. And I had no way to orient my idea of self-worth, right? I started getting incredibly depressed without the standing ovations and the keynote speaking and all the achievement. And I couldn't understand what to do with my time, with my talent, which just felt totally lost and adrift at sea. So I started this project when I got pregnant with my second child. I was like, I wonder if, because I had, fortunately, the one gift that I had gotten, well, it wasn't the one gift, I had many gifts from my time at Conscious Company Media, is that I had interviewed over 1,000 business leaders. And I had met people who had achieved some level of what we would call traditional business success, but were actually thriving, happy, grounded, peaceful. I would say Eileen and Antoinette are two of these people, hence why I interviewed them for the book. So I went through, started reviewing all these interviews, started like thinking about this concept because I knew I wanted to come back into the workplace. And this was the first time that I started looking at why my idea of success was or was not working for me. And I was wondering if the people that I knew that were thriving, were they doing something differently than the rest of us? The answer is that they were. And as I was doing this entire thing, it turned into this entire book proposal, which I stumbled across some research that helped me understand why I felt so miserable and why I was really struggling with the high achiever mentality of the extrinsically motivated, accomplishment oriented idea of success. So, the first being research found this was through the Journal of Neuroscience. They identified that when we anticipate an award or a reward, AKA extrinsic motivation, it triggers the same dopamine in our brain that is associated with drug addiction. The same chemical reaction that happens in our brain when we're anticipating a reward is the same one, very similar to when you have some sort of substance abuse disorder. It is an addictive process. And when I was thinking about this, yeah, like you set your goal, you achieve it, you feel a brief thrill of success, maybe, and then you need the next goal and you push the milestone marker a little bit further and you just keep going and adding on and adding on. And there, unless you have defined some stopping point at which it's enough, you are just on this perpetual, ever increasing stressful cycle. Because when you think about it, every time you push the milestones or the mile markers a little bit further, you're adding in more responsibility, you're adding in more pressure, adding in more stress. And this is research has found as women ascend the leadership ranks, they increasingly become more and more depressed. We're adding on all of this stress and pressure on top of all the stress and pressure we have outside of the workplace as well. So I was like, all right, this ever increasing, stressful, addictive process, point number one. Point number two, extrinsic motivation, awards, money, influence, status, all of those things. It Research has shown time and time again it is not the key predictor of what makes us happy or what makes us flourish as human beings. There was one study out of the University of Richmond came out. They studied students. The first group identified their idea of success around extrinsic motivation. The second around intrinsic motivation, things like having purpose, growing and having mastery or continued learning, having autonomy and freedom, working on things you care about. The group after graduation, they studied these groups, the extrinsically motivated group, regardless of whatever level of success they achieved or how many goals they hit later in life, they were had the same level of life satisfaction as they did in college and increased levels of stress and depression. The intrinsically motivated group, again, regardless of whatever goals or life goals they had that they had met, they were had increased levels of life satisfaction as compared to when they were in college and decreased levels of stress and depression. This also tracks with Harvard's Human Flourishing Program, which for the last 10 years has been studying what are the key predictors of human flourishing in life. And they have narrowed it down to five: happiness and life satisfaction, physical and mental health, meaning and purpose, character and virtue, and close social relationships. And when I started looking at this, I was like, the traditional idea of success is addictive. There's this perpetual, never ending cycle. And the thing that we are chasing, that we are working so hard for, is actually not the thing that makes us happy or content or helps us flourish in the long run. It's just this incredibly sad cycle. And it's no wonder that I was struggling and that so many people that I know were also struggling. We're chasing the wrong thing and we're killing ourselves in the process because we're chasing it so hard. And even if we do catch it, it isn't the thing that actually makes us happy. So that's why so many women I talk to are like, I just feel like something is missing, or I'm doing this wrong, or something isn't right, but I don't quite know how to articulate it. This, for me, was this unlocking of like, oh my gosh, this is, I've been doing it wrong the entire time. And is there a better way to do this? And this is where all of these interviews with these extraordinary humans that I'd met along the way who did seem happy and thriving, I started reviewing and also doing new interviews for the book where I was like, how do you define your success? Talk to me about that. And there were three core pillars across the board that were similar, like common denominator issues across the board that nearly all of the thriving humans had in common. I don't think they'll be terribly surprising based on what I already did. But the three are purpose, passion, quality of life. So I'll talk a bit about them. Purpose. This is number one of the top three intrinsic motivators that we have as a human being is having a sense of meaning or purpose. This is also one of the key pillars of human flourishing. We need some sort of purpose, and the more that we care about what we are doing, the better. Solving problems that you genuinely care about and working on them on a day to day fills us up with a deep, inherent, lasting sense of satisfaction. The example that I have for this one I mean, I have a jillion examples, but the story that I'll help bring this to life, Gayla Jennings O'Byrne. She was vice president of philanthropic services at JP Morgan Chase, a position she'd achieved as a Black woman, raising to the highest ranks at one of the largest financial institutions in the world. And she talked to me about how much work it took for her to get there. But the entire time she was doing that, she was like, this, I love, I guess, like, it's a great job. I'm getting paid a lot, but like the way that I'm distributing this philanthropy, I wish that I was being able to really give this money to underrepresented founders in a more meaningful way, but she couldn't allocate those funds. She was diagnosed with cancer. And on the operating table, she the doctors were giving her about 50-50 odds, and she said she made a promise to the higher powers that if she was able to beat cancer, she was going to live her purpose, her true, genuine purpose. She beat cancer and quickly, shortly after that, left her role at JP Morgan Chase to found Walk Star Capital, WOC, Women of Color Star Capital, where she has been raising huge amounts of money and redistributing that to underrepresented founders and is having tremendous success and lives her life every day like she is on absolute fire. She has been brought to life by this, and you can tell when you talk to her. She is so happy. Like she's just like it's oozing out of her. It's extraordinary. Second, passion. So you can 100% be making an impact and working on things that you care about. And passion is, are you engaging with things that you're interested in, that you're challenged by, that are helping you grow and learn? Are you working on topics that you're actually happy and joyful to be working on? And this was Rose Macario, former CEO of Patagonia. She talked to me about her journey. She had a tremendous amount of purpose when she was CEO of Patagonia. And she found at a certain point her passion for that was she was starting to become very passionate about regenerative agriculture. And she'd made the decision to leave her role as CEO of Patagonia because she wanted to continue making a purpose, but her passion, her interest area had gravitated towards something different. And so it's this question of every day. I felt this with Conscious Company magazine. We are making a tremendous impact. And I had days where I was like, if I have to write another article, my eyes are bleeding. I hate this work that I'm doing right now. I don't feel excited about it. I don't feel a flow state. I feel like this is hard to get me interested back in this thing. And I should have left way before I did. So it's this marriage of purpose and passion and being okay with the fact that those things can change. The third element is quality of life. And for anyone who's on the line, Sharon Rowe, she was the founder of Eco Bags, which is B Corp certified. I actually met her at Eileen's We the Change gathering many years ago, which was for women CEO of certified B Corps. And she started Eco Bags in 1989, like doing reusable shopping bags way before they were cool, right? Like 1989, that's incredible. And she intentionally, she saw a need for this. There was a need in the market for this, but she started the company so that she could live her ideal life. So she wrote down on a piece of paper, here's the amount of time I want to spend every week with my family, my friends, and my kids. Here's the flexibility I want to have. Here's the amount of time that I want to work on this throughout the week. Here's how many days a year I want to take off. Here's how I want this to feel. Here's the life that I want to have while I'm working, not let me put the life that I want to have on hold, work for 40 years, and then maybe hopefully have it when I'm 65. So for 35 years, she ran the company this way. She called it a tiny business, intentionally saying no to growth opportunities that would make it so she felt increased stress or had to work more or shifted the dynamic of this perfectly sized tiny business that employed a couple people. They had the exact number that they needed for everyone to feel like they had enough money, but more importantly, they prioritize their quality of life. Everyone on the team's quality of life over the amount of money they could make or how hard they were working. And then last year, in the most heartbreakingly prescient moment that I could think of, Susan or Sharon passed away from cancer at age 67. Like, I can't imagine how grateful she was that she didn't wait until age 65 to live the life that she wanted, that she had been living it the entire time, that she prioritized quality of life over quantity of accomplishments or quantity of things that she accrued. So these are the elements that I was consistently seeing across the board with all of these humans who I met who actually seemed to be genuinely thriving and in careers that, by any measure of success, were successful, but they did not consider success to be how much money they were making or how gigantic their company was. A lot of them achieved success, financial success, because, and I would say Eileen Fisher is a fabulous example of this. She has purpose. She's making a positive impact on the world. She's passionate about the thing that she was doing, making these timeless, simple clothes that I think she started in 1984. Like, out of like just this like tiny little road show she went on because she was so passionate about the thing that she was doing. And she built this gorgeous organization, employee owned, profit distribution, collaborative decision making, helping everyone there feel like they are included and that their quality of life and their mental health and their well-being is taken care of in the workplace. Eileen, the first time I met her, I honest to God thought I was going to be walking in and meeting Miranda Priestley from Devil Wears Prada. I was like terrified. I'm from Colorado. I was wearing some chintzy thing from Marshall's. I was like, I remember like my hands were so sweaty when I was trying to ring the doorbell to go in for the interview of issue number 3 of our magazine that I had to take like a few deep breaths and center myself. And I walk in and she is just the most grounded, kind. She's listening. Like she's just embodies this different way of being as a leader and as a business owner and as a business leader that I had rarely seen. It wasn't the frantic, busy, have to have more all the time. It was intentional. It was beautifully intentional. So this was, and I will not say that I'm perfect. I have been attempting to use this framework, purpose, passion, quality of life. There's like a gorgeous Venn diagram where maybe you're meeting in the middle. And I found my ideal is like turning up the volume on each of them, turning the dial a little bit, tweaking them, not feeling like I have to boil the ocean tomorrow, but what can I do to make regular progress on making it so I feel like I'm making a positive impact on something I care about. My purpose that I have been pursuing for the last 10 years is reimagining business, improving the business world for everyone. That has like been I've been hell bent on that mission. I'm still super passionate about it. The passion, I moved from journalism over to being an author, doing consulting, other things that actually I retreats, like things that I love that light me on fire, that I absolutely adore doing, and quality of life. This is the big one because I've got a book coming out. There's all these narratives around how I should be on a book tour and I should be on planes and I should be traveling and all the things. And my publisher asked me, what do you want to focus on? I want to just focus on podcasts. I don't want to be on the road all the time. I'm not going to be working after 3 p.m. any day of the week because that's when I'm with my kids. I don't work weekends. Like you can put me on a book tour light because it doesn't have to be the most gigantic thing in the entire world. For me, it has to feel intentional and like I can be grounded and peaceful throughout, and that it does not compromise my quality of life. Those are the pillars that I'm looking for. So I continue to tune these things as I find that I'm out of alignment with them. I try to course correct as best I can, and I still get sucked into the ego comparison vortex of accomplishment. And, people like, are you going to make a New York Times bestseller list? I'm like, absolutely not. Does some smart, small part of my ego still want that? Yes. And it is not the definition of success at this point. And so this is what I was hoping to offer to all of you is this framework. And as we're breaking out, Antoinette, I don't know if you're providing questions, but the questions that I had in breakouts are, of course, about these three pillars. What is your meaning? Do you feel like you have purpose, making a positive impact on something you care about? Are you truly passionate and lit up and engaged and interested in what you're doing? And are there any ways that you're compromising your quality of life right now because of your career? Like those, offering those. And when I say quality of life, of course, that's probably individual for each of you. I use the human flourishing issue of am I physically healthy, mentally healthy? Am I nurturing deep, profound, meaningful social connections? And do I regularly feel joyful and satisfied? What do I need to have time for those things? Um, so, Antoinette, I know I can hand it back to you at this point, but that is 25 minutes of my virtual TED Talk. Sorry.
Amazing, Megan. Thank you. No, it's really, I mean, not just the talk and the bullet point kind of thing, but also just kind of um your presence and how you show up and what you share with us from the place that you are right now is really lovely. And I love the question that Jody has in the chat, and it's something maybe to bring in as well. Just thinking about, is it easier to approach stepping away from corporate success once one has met a milestone? So just thinking also about the milestones in your own lives and ways that you've been able to kind of move in and out of the kind of need for success in a particular way and how you've defined success over your own life and maybe at various times. I think that's a great question too. So Megan asked us, what is your sense of meaning and purpose? Are you truly passionate about what you're doing, and are you compromising your quality of life for your career in any way? And really love Sharon, and I remember seeing her right after she got her diagnosis, and just the vitality and vibrancy which she, lived every single day of her life. And even the way that her family held her in the moments that she was departing this plane, this world. She just, I love that you brought her in, and the inspiration that, it has given me to remind myself to drink lots of water. That was a very Sharon thing. And to just take full advantage of everything that we have in this life. So yeah, I love all these questions. I put them in the chat. As always, the magic of the Women Together Connect is this moment where we get to turn to each other and share with one another. As we reminded at the top, we don't know what each other has been through. Um, and just in getting breakfast this morning, let alone all of our life experiences. And it's a short period of time. So just enjoy the time together. Share your name, where you're coming in from. Make sure everyone has a little bit of time to share. And just really opening up a really powerful portal of listening to each other, as Megan reminded us. So enjoy the time together. And we'll see you back here in, let's say 15 minutes so that we have some time with Megan to do a little Q&A and conversation at the end. So 15 minutes, enjoy the time together, and we'll see you back here shortly.